Welcome to the Heritage Show. Today, I'm excited to share the stories of Chia Pei Qi, co-founder of Delugs, a brand transforming the way we see luxury watch accessories. Her journey shows how passion, courage, and innovation can lead to amazing achievements. Together with her husband, Kenneth Kwan, Pei Qi spotted a gap in the market and launched Delugs in 2018. Since then, the brand has gained fans around the world, including high-profile names like Ed Sheeran. Pei Qi's hard work and creativity earned her a place on the Forbes 30 Under 30 list, making her a leader in her field at a young age. From serving in the Air Force to running a global brand, she has tackled challenges in male-dominated spaces and brought her unique vision to life. In this episode, we'll explore how she turned her passion into a successful business, her perspective on being brave and taking risks, and how she balances different roles and identities in life and work. Let's dive in and welcome Chia Pei Qi to the show. Hello, Pei. Welcome to the Heritage Show. I'm so glad to have you here. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
I will jump right in. I'm really curious on what the work you're doing, your mission, and what is the impact you're making to this world.
So I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a co-founder of the brand Delugs. We're a watch straps and accessories brand. So our goal when we started a brand is to make strap changing a lifestyle. So make it accessible to everybody. And then it's not something that you just buy when you have a broken strap. It's something that you can match to your lifestyle, to what you're wearing, to allow you to express yourself in different ways. So it's actually a passion project that turned into a full-time career for me.
Right. Yeah, I've heard this story from connecting your passion to the successful business nowadays. Could you walk through those experience or this process? How do you transform the passion project into Delugs today?
So my husband and I were co-founders of the brand. We initially started wanting to pick up a hobby together, and we wanted to do something crafty. But at the same time, maybe he wasn't really good at painting or drawing. That wasn't something that he was very interested in. So we thought, why not find something a little bit more, or I thought leather crafting was a little bit more masculine. But at the same time, it's still something I enjoy. Something you can make with your hands. You start with raw material, but then it transforms it into something practical and something useful. So that was how we started picking up the craft. And then along the way, we didn't think that it would be our full-time career, but I guess we saw gaps in the market, and then people liked our products as well. And eventually it grew and grew, and it became a full-time business.
Wow, that's very impressive. From what I heard from you, a few important pieces I picked up. One component was really about how to use passion as a way to lead to something perhaps more. Because I remember watching a video about your husband, Kenneth, was learning how to do leather crafting online by himself. It took a few months and experimented with different tools and leathers. And then, as you mentioned, eventually you captured this niche or this need on the market and then turned this into a business opportunity. Often I hear from people I work with or my friends, a lot of women especially, they love to develop their passion. They love to find perhaps new passion in life. But sometimes they find it difficult to perhaps connect a passion into something might bring more deeper meaning of business opportunity together. Could you share some perspective on this?
I guess it really starts with a mindset. For me, I think when we started, I was someone who kind of drew a very clear line between passion and work. My husband was actually selling some of his projects on the side. So he was doing some for his own. He was doing some commission projects as well. For me, it was a little challenging. So I'm not sure if it's a lady thing or it's just like to me. But I was worried that if I made it too transactional, then I would lose the passion in what I'm
Right.
doing. So if I started selling leather products, then maybe I may not find the joy in crafting anymore. So I think that was my worry. But I think it's really trying to find a middle ground, or when we translate it to a business, I think it's finding what might excite me in building it into a business. Yeah. So for me, I think I enjoy different parts of the business as well, not just the crafting component. And I think we should be more open-minded in exploring the different aspects of that. So I think once we keep our open mind, open heart, sometimes you may not know what you may find out next or what may interest you next. And it may not just be the craft itself, but it may be like exploring different parts of the business, how operations work, how marketing work, how business development work, how do you build those building blocks, and how do you keep growing the business.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's kind of like finding a middle ground, finding new paths as well.
Interesting. So what I heard from you is passion, interest could be a starting point, and use this as a fuel, as a kind of teaser to lead you to something bigger, something more well-rounded. That's very interesting. Actually, I'm a free diver, so for a period of time, I was considering to become a freediving instructor, but I had exactly the same concern as you mentioned. Oh, what if I become an instructor and every day is about work, is about the logistic itself, about teaching others? What if I will lose my passion to freediving? But then I asked a lot of friends of mine, my instructor, they mentioned something similar as you highlighted. Because once they become instructor, the perspective, the view, the world of freediving actually has been enlarged more than the act itself. It involves also about teaching, about understanding the business side of things. So
Yeah.
I think that's definitely make it more of a 360, more holistic area
Yeah.
to look into. Thank you for
Yeah,
sharing.
sometimes it gives you more levers or like more avenues to also share your passion with others. Sometimes just being involved in the passion itself is hard to share. But when you build it into a business or like you said, for yourself, being an instructor, sometimes it gives you more ways to kind of share that passion with the world as well.
Yeah, wow, that's a very cool insight. I love this. So as now your business has been very successful since 2018, and some of those celebrities like Ed Sheeran had also been a big fan of your watch accessories. I think your passion has been spread out to a bigger world. And could you perhaps share this experience of breaking into this rather saturated, competitive luxury watch accessory world?
Mm-hmm. I think it's about, it might seem like a saturated world, but I think it's really about finding or narrowing down to what is the value that we bring. I think we actually spotted that there was a pretty big gap in the market for, let's say, accessible but good quality handcrafted strap that was readily accessible. So something that you wanted right away and with shorter wait time, I think there was nothing quite available in the market. So I wouldn't necessarily say it's very saturated if I narrow it down to that sense. So I think once we figured out what is it that we kind of like, who are our target audience, what exactly is the value that we bring, can we offer something slightly different? Can we make the experience slightly better? Then we are able to kind of differentiate ourselves from other brands in the market that might seem similar to us.
Yeah, I love that. You talked about this unique selling proposition,
Mhm.
right? Like what is so unique, so different from your competitors? On this point, a lot of people want to start their business, but one of their biggest challenge is, what do I do? Because seems like everything has been done,
Everything
and
has been done before.
yes, and how can I find my unique selling proposition? Where is that niche, the market, and that differentiator that can make me or my product unique on this market? Could you share perhaps some exercise or mindset to start with?
I guess taking everything in bite-sized pieces might be helpful. So even like brainstorming, definitely market research is important. So any form of homework is definitely important. But also kind of to maybe try out to see if that concept really works and get feedback from
Mm,
people. I think to stay grounded, to hear feedback from people and to see if it really works before investing too heavily into any idea, that would be a more practical approach, I would say. I
yeah.
think it seems like everything has been done before, but I guess if you try to maybe focus on a certain niche area or a certain group and think about like how you could do it better. I think as long as there's improvement, there's changes, I think there's always something that you could find, or a little gap in some of these markets that you could kind of tackle.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's really down to the details sometimes. There might be a lot of businesses around, but then again, there are also a lot of businesses that haven't really been improving. They've been doing the same thing for a long time. They've been doing the same thing day in and day out. So if you could be a brand that improve with the times or offer something slightly different, I think
Mm.
that would be a good starting point.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like what you mentioned about looking at something that you could do even a little bit better. Like you, in your brand, I see these components offer it more affordable options, tailored, customized in a faster speed. Something even slightly better could put you in a position of advantage. So that's very cool. Thank you. Again, on this topic of creating your brand and starting a new business, um, have you encountered some obstacles that you didn't imagine? What you learned from those experiences?
um, I think I never really thought that I would be running my own brand.
Mm,
I've always thought that maybe I'll just be working in a big company or in a corporation, doing like a 9 to 5 job. So I never really thought that I'll be running my own brand. I think um definitely there are a lot of like the good sides to it. So you get the flexibility, you get to plan your schedule, you get to set your own goals, build your own team. But then I guess there's the other side that many people may not see, which is
mm,
I guess it really requires a lot of hard work, and your mind basically doesn't switch off at all because you
yeah.
there's no off time, I guess, because you're always
Correct.
thinking about what's next and what's the next big thing. I think a big challenge for me personally will also be to find balance between that and my family. So I
Mm,
have a young child, a little toddler. So I
uh,
think sometimes finding the balance can be a little tricky as a young mom. So I think that is something that I struggle with, and I think a lot of women struggle with as well.
right. On this one, actually, something I've heard so many clients of mine also highlighted, especially most of them are women. They start to have families and life go on different directions. Especially as women, when we want to balance career, family, kids, partnership, our own identity. This sounds a lot, and you've done really well, but you mentioned yourself that you also face challenges. But so far, what do you think has worked and what had helped for you to balance among different roles and identities?
Yeah, I guess I'm still trying. I wouldn't say I'm really successful at it. I think as a woman, it's really challenging.
Uh,
Whenever I'm at work, sometimes I think a lot about my kid, whether I should be spending a bit more time with my kid. When I'm with my kid, I feel that, hey, am I like missing out on any meetings, work opportunities, work dinner sometimes.
yeah.
So I always feel a little torn sometimes. I wish I could
Uh,
have it all, or rather, I want to have it all. But I think it's about I think I've spoken about this in different to different people as well before. My husband was the one who actually introduced the concept of work life harmony to me. So he
mm,
told me that, instead of always seeing it a little bit more in a pessimistic way of like if I'm giving my all in one way, I'm kind of losing out on the other. Why not
uh,
see it as it's just harmony, right? Not so much of a balance, but
uh,
harmony, and the line doesn't have to be so clean.
uh,
Um, I think that opened up my mind a lot. I really mean it when I say that. So like sometimes when I'm with my kid and if I have like a good business idea, I let myself enjoy that moment, think about it
Yeah.
for a little while, maybe write it down. When I'm at work and I do miss my kid a little bit, I'll take the time. I might look at his photos, videos. I might give him a call. I think sometimes it's more of an internal struggle than external. When I ask people, like, how do you think I'm doing as a mom? I ask my husband, how do you think I'm doing as a mom? Most of the time, they would give really encouraging comments, but it's more internally about how I feel. So I think it's about managing that expectation from ourselves and being able to rationalize it in a way.
Yeah, I hear you. And I really love this concept of work-life harmony.
Yeah, I
Um,
really like that word.
yes, yes, that's a super, super lovely way to put it. I think sometimes we see balance feels like it has to be 50-50 or it has
Mm-hmm.
to somehow well managed all the time, but it also put a lot of extra pressure on us that, oh, we have to be a good mom and a good manager and good a wife and individual as well. But I love what you mentioned about perhaps these components about giving ourselves a little grace and self-compassion and to
Mm-hmm.
say it's okay, I feel this way, it's okay, maybe I feel guilty at times, it's okay, I'm not master of all, but I'm doing my best. And allow yourself to think about your kid while at work perhaps a little bit, and then maybe brings into this mindfulness components to say, okay, now I'm at this business event, so let's focus on this event for now. And once I'm home, I'll be fully committed to the family
Yeah,
and
that's right.
kids. I love that. And perhaps this a little bit blurred line could also kind of give us a bit of a wiggle room to not say, okay, this is has to be strictly 100%. That seems to forget the fact that we are human, that we also have our limitations. So I like that. Thank you. I love it. Well, on this topic, again, a related area is the fact that you and your husband are co-owning and running this
Mm-hmm.
business. Um, you're not only spouse, but also business partner. So how does that work harmoniously? And how do you keep this relationship healthy and have a healthy boundary as well between different roles that you are playing in terms
Yeah.
of partner and business relationship?
Yeah. So I think within the business, we try to split our roles a little bit so that there is less overlap. I guess we wouldn't step into each other's lanes, but also for efficiency, right? So I would take charge of certain departments. I would take charge of operations and business development. He will kind of oversee marketing and product development. And I think that allows us to kind of know which are the baskets that we're looking at. I think that helps a lot at work. And at the same time, it also helps with, let's say, events or meetings that we have to go for. So if there's something that maybe falls a bit more into my lane, then we can decide that maybe if someone has to go out for the night and someone has to stay back to look after our kid, maybe I'll be the one that goes. And then if it falls more into his lane, then maybe he will be the one that fronts that discussion, and then I will be the one that stay behind. So I think dividing the roles is one, but also kind of respecting each other and agreeing to do that together. I think that's another.
Yeah.
I think for my husband and I, he is he's someone who pushes me to the front a lot as well. He's very supportive.
Mm,
And I think he has shared this before that sometimes in business, when husband and wife work together, people tend to think that the husband is the main one that is running the company and the wife is just in a supporting role.
mm,
Um, I think for us, we know that we have distinct roles. So he supports me in whatever role that I am doing as well. So I
yeah.
think having a supportive partner is very important to make this entire thing work.
Right.
Yeah, and then amongst us and our team, I think we also try to keep a clear boundary between work and out of that. So if we have disagreements at work, I think we
Mm,
try not to, as much as possible, not let it show in front of our team. So we always look like united as one.
yeah.
And then we can settle those differences outside.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a little bit like parenting and like, with your kid. It's the same thing
Yeah.
with your team.
right. That's definitely art is a something that
Yeah.
is hard to
Yeah.
explain, but you have to find your own way. And I like what you mentioned about having this supportive partner, being in this um partnership that are very open and constructive and productive in terms of
Mhm.
organizing different roles, having perhaps some what I heard ground rules about when conflict happens, how do you communicate within and externally to others and to your team. Um, this is super important, I think, not only in relationship but also in business, and
Yeah.
especially when they are combined. So yeah, and I love that.
I would say it actually not just apply to like couples, right? It applies
Mm,
to like good friends who decide to start a business together.
yes.
Like applies to any form of business partners. When you start off, you may be on the same page along the way. Sometimes your goals drift or you go on different paths, and that's where people disagree. I have a lot of friends who also tell me that they can never work with their spouse
Yeah.
because they're so different. And I think that's okay.
Mm,
If you know that you have very different working styles and you're both maybe either too similar or too different, and you
mm,
know that you prefer not to work in each other's lanes, right? You prefer to have a different work life, so that you can enjoy your personal life together. I think that's okay as well. So I think it's not necessarily like you don't have to force yourselves to work together. For some people, if they know clearly that it doesn't work, then yeah, it may not have to work.
yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
agree with that. I've also seen some of my friends had built business with their best friend, perhaps
Mhm.
people they've known a long time, and along the way things didn't work, which eventually impact the relationship and the friendship as well, which was unfortunate. Of course, it does happen sometimes, but I do agree with you. This kind of relationship and partnership also has to somehow has a healthy way to make it work. Otherwise, it might not be worth to force it. Definitely.
Yeah.
Got you. And when we look at you, we talk about so many roles that you have. What about your individual growth and your private life? Because now you have so many
Mhm.
responsibilities. How do you maintain your own hobby, identity, your own life aspirations still somehow preserved and has the space to nurture it?
To be honest, I think it's quite challenging at this point.
Okay. Yeah,
um, I think it's really about understanding your own individual life goals as well at different
yeah.
stages of your life. And also understanding what your partner might need. For example, I think if someone needs their own personal space, maybe they do need time off or individual time, then you have to kind of carve that time aside for them. For me, I think I'm a little bit more extroverted. I enjoy company from different people as well. So I know I
Yeah.
need time with my husband, I need time with my kid, I need time with my
Uh,
team, but I also need time with my parents.
uh-huh.
So finding these pockets of time to me is really important, and I think that is part of my life goal at the moment. So to be
Uh,
present, in the moment, to be able to enjoy all those little pieces without having any regrets. I think that's one of my life goals. If
yeah.
we talk about passion or making sure not to lose myself, I think it's to always be able to take some time out for your own self care. I think that's very
Uh,
important. So whether it's just 5 minutes a day, right, to do some meditation, or 5 minutes a day to do some breathing exercises before everybody wakes up, or to take a little bit more time in the bathroom, have a nice shower. I think all those little
yeah.
moments mean something. It may
Mm,
not have to be an hour long. You don't have to do too much. But I think all those little moments will add up and kind of help you stay on track to who you
yeah.
are as an individual as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. I love that you first mentioned all the important people that you would like to carve out time with. So
Mm-hmm.
relationship is such an important component to maintain your wellness and well-being. And I totally agree because most time the older people, the biggest regret they have often is about not spending enough time with their
Mm-hmm.
loved ones. So I love that you intentionally set this time for family, friends, kids, partner, and for yourself, right? The relationship with ourselves.
Yeah.
And on the self components, yeah, I totally hear you. And I was on a retreat recently with a lot of Chinese expats living in Germany. Most of them were women, and some were even like single parents, like raising kids by themselves, which can be really challenging, right? Like you mentioned, literally had no time for yourself. So one of the questions they ask is, how can I find time? Like I wake up, the first thing is to, take care of my kid and feed them and clean them. And then I sleep, everything was still about them. So I definitely hear the challenge. But as you mentioned, I think maybe even just 5 minutes, even just a small ritual that you can do to feel like you are investing in yourself, you are caring for yourself, because otherwise you cannot show up for people that are important for you as
Yeah.
well.
I think sometimes people forget that the little pockets of time make a difference. I think often when we think about what is our passion, maybe we think that I have a certain hobby and that takes up maybe 3 hours every week. Maybe I love doing yoga and I want to do it every day and now I can't. And then that is taken away from me. But I think like if you see it in a different way, if you see that, oh, I have that maybe 10 minutes every day to kind of spend on what I like to do. So maybe I don't have 1 hour a day, but now I have 10 minutes, or I can find maybe 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes at night. I think it still adds up to something, and we should still appreciate those little moments added up together.
Yeah, love it. Those small steps, those small actions, and be a little bit flexible on, not fixed on a specific time or a specific
Yeah.
commitment could really make a difference. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. And I remembered that you had experience living in US for 4 years, and I'm really curious about how did that experience shape you as a individual, perhaps in your mindset, in entrepreneurship, in business, and in life as well. Because I also live abroad. A lot of our audience are expats living abroad, so I am curious to know more about that.
Yeah, so I spent 4 years in the US mainly because I decided to do college abroad. I think it was the first time that I was so far away from home, which was Singapore. But it really allowed me to be completely independent in a good way and also a challenging way. I think it was good that I was away for a while and put in my out of my comfort zone. So I was forced to kind of, in a way, survive or make friends, have new experiences, and be comfortable with the uncomfortable, I guess.
Yeah.
I think it really opened up my mind a lot. I think being somewhere different, you meet a lot of people from different backgrounds. So that's one. Different languages, different races, different religions, and very simple things like how people think about issues, how people analyze certain things, how people react can be very different in different cultures. And I think that opened up my mind a lot. It also made me a lot more vocal and I think confident in sharing my perspective, which can be quite different because I feel like I'm also value adding from a different perspective. Yeah, so I think it really shaped me to be who I am today. A little bit more adventurous, a little bit bolder, a little bit different from I would say all my peers who didn't have that chance to travel as much or who didn't have that chance to live abroad.
Yeah. Love that. I hear a few things that I'm interested to learn more. One is on this part of you mentioned being more vocal and be able to speak up. I think one phenomenon I observed, especially among like Asian women, oftentimes it's difficult for us to express ourselves, especially disagree or perhaps express a different opinions or debate. How did you overcome this, or what strategies or practice has been helpful for this?
I think sometimes it's really just about kind of just overcoming that mental hurdle of not being afraid to say something. To kind of like just there's like an invisible step in front of me sometimes.
Yeah.
I think just being able to try to step over that, maybe not being able to see everything I want to see, but maybe a small portion of it, and then start from it could also start from maybe a smaller group setting rather than jump straight to a big group presentation or raising a question in a large community. So I think all those little steps are what are helpful to kind of get
Yeah,
started. I
right.
think I would say sometimes it's more what you're used to, but it may not necessarily be tied to race or culture. And I think we shouldn't let that limit us, or
Yeah,
we shouldn't let that define who we are.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think that's definitely something I've observed myself. Perhaps I had some cultural influence, also from my family, from my personality. Since I went abroad, start to try things in a bit of a safer environment, perhaps also, like you highlighted, make small steps in like making small risk in a more controlled environment instead of going full on and high speed. So that definitely helps. And absolutely agree with you that this mindset is important, and also this ability to break through this constraint, doesn't matter it's cultures, race, it's gender, could definitely help us to let go a little bit of this fear. Yeah, so being bolder definitely is something also I agree with you since I lived abroad. Um, and talking about living abroad, I don't know the reason that you decided came back to Singapore. Have you had any reflection or perhaps insight living abroad, as in how does that influence your identity, how you see yourself? Um, why not continue living abroad?
Yeah, I think for me, I moved back mostly because of career and family.
Mm,
But I think ultimately for me, being close to family is quite a big priority, and having that support system is quite important. I do appreciate both ends of the stick actually. So being abroad, having the freedom to kind of lead my own life,
mm,
not having basically not having too many constraints or responsibilities is quite freeing sometimes.
yeah.
You can do whatever you want on the weekends, or maybe travel, see the world a little bit, be a bit more spontaneous. But at the same time, I also kind of appreciate being closer to home, being closer to family, being able to spend time with my parents as they age, having that support system as well, knowing that if I need help or I need anything, there is a support system of family and friends readily available. I think
Mm,
that's something that I don't really take for granted, and I really appreciate as well.
yeah.
Um, so I think I can appreciate both sides of the sticks. I think it's more about the advantages of where I am right now, and not
Yeah.
just seeing the advantages of the other side. Because otherwise, then
Right.
it's always, then the grass is always greener on the other side, and
Yeah.
you'll always be a little unhappy or a little bit unsatisfied. So yeah, so I think it's kind of that. In terms of who I am as a person, I think all my experiences along the way have shaped me to be who I am. I'm quite mindful to not let myself settle into a comfortable zone. So I know
Mm,
that being back to my home country is definitely more comfortable in terms of environment, in terms of familiarity, but I try not to let that define me in a way. So try not to let myself be too comfortable,
yeah.
um, and always challenging myself. So like right now, I think running the business is definitely a challenging component.
Mm,
Taking a career path that is slightly different from the norm. I think many
yeah.
of my friends don't really go down the entrepreneur path. Many
Right.
people tend to stay in their jobs or professions and just
Mm,
climb the ladder. So I think allowing myself to take a path that is slightly different, I think that is also kind of part of who I am right now, part of my identity.
mm, yeah. I love that. Mm, I think first back to the point on the decision making, as in living abroad or coming back to the home country. It's always a topic on the back of the head of mostly all the expats.
Yeah, it's so
That's why
tough.
I asked. Yeah, for me as well. I in the last few years I had this
somehow calling of reconnect and reconcile with my roots. That's why I have this heritage show and this kind of polarities, and at the same time it's very interesting. I don't have an answer yet myself, but I'm happy to hear your perspective, especially on the part of being happy of where you are right now and appreciate what you have. Of course, there is still a decision you can make in staying abroad or going back to your home country, but to be grateful for this moment actually can help us be grounded. And I love that. And
I think the world is also getting so much smaller, right? The world is so much more connected. Traveling is much, much easier. You can fly to different places within a day nowadays, or like within a day or two, you're in a completely different country. It's a lot more connected as well. So sometimes you don't feel too far away from your friends or from your family. Video calls, virtual meetings, I think that really pulls everybody in a lot closer. And it's a lot less scary in a way. Even if you're traveling alone, you don't feel quite alone anymore. So I think the world is changing as well, and sometimes the idea of home or belonging can be quite different today as well.
right.
I think in the past, maybe it's very clear that maybe you grew up in a certain place and there is home. But today, sometimes it changes based on the stage of life that you're at or what you're exploring. I guess it's possible to find a home elsewhere as well.
Yeah.
So it can be quite different.
Right. Yeah, I love what you mentioned about this connectivity technology now we have. Makes us all feel more connected and keep in touch easier. So I think the key is to have this intention of maintaining and enhancing our relationship even when we live far apart. And I remember we talk about this, where is home, right? So home is, I guess, where your heart belongs. Even if you could be around the globe, that if your heart feels grounded and in yourself, then this is home. So thank you for sharing. And again, I hear another thing you mentioned about pursue a different life path, as in this entrepreneurship, perhaps a little bit different from others. There is no good and bad, and everyone has their unique path. But I would like to get a sense of how to overcome this fear to be on a path that is very unknown, unfamiliar, a lot of uncertainty. Because I was on a retreat recently. The title of the retreat is Living a Limitless Life. A lot of us want to have such a life that is beyond the societal expectation and our parents' expectation, and we want to pursue our dream and live to our full potential. But then there are so many fears in there. Have you had this experience, and what helped you to overcome this fear?
I think I've always been someone who likes to be challenged a little bit, always taking the path that is slightly less common. I think I feel the most growth when I feel a little bit uncomfortable. My career choices have always been a little bit unconventional. Before I was an entrepreneur, I was actually in the military. So
Right.
so it's kind of a really unconventional choices. I wouldn't say I was comfortable making all those choices, but it was intentionally so that I chose them because I wanted to experience something that was maybe a little bit different from others. I think that would push me to grow as a person. I would say for people who are a little bit more fearful or a little bit more scared, try to take baby steps. Try to maybe make decisions that may not be so irrational, but maybe with a little bit more of a calculated risk. So you don't see it too much as a risky maneuver or like risky move, but a little bit more calculated. So for example, like even choosing to switch from military to being an entrepreneur, many people might think that I just jumped into it overnight. But actually it was because the business was kind of already growing on the side together with my husband. It was a viable option that could probably sustain us full time. And we did our math. It was a calculated move. So in that sense, that helps to kind of balance out the fear a little bit. So many decisions that we make in our life can be cushioned a bit with more calculated risk, with a little bit more planned actions. Yeah. I would say.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. I love this recommendation of taking baby step as a few things we touched upon earlier, that small actions, small risks help
Yeah,
us kind of build this confidence and
yeah.
to perhaps test water and see if this could work or if I'm okay actually taking this risk. I love that. And you mentioned about your experience in the military. That I know you were in the Air Force, so very
Mm-hmm.
impressive experience. Um, I imagine that might have been a very tough, physically, mentally stressful environment, and perhaps also a male dominating field, similar as in a way that in this luxury watch field.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as a woman, perhaps it
Mm-hmm.
feels minority in that
Mm-hmm.
environment. So, did you feel like you have this advantage, and how did you overcome certain challenges in that environment?
Yeah. I think for me, I'm always quite aware that I do still feel like the minority in most of the settings. So whether
Mm,
it was in the military, whether it's in the watch industry, I do feel like a minority. But I think that comes with its advantages and disadvantages, right? So it's like a double-edged sword. I guess the disadvantages would be that if I may feel like I stick out a little bit like a sore thumb, or sometimes
mm,
I may not feel as confident because I'm quite different from the rest.
yeah.
But I guess where the advantage comes in is if I um do something. Sometimes it's a little easier to shine. Um,
Mm,
so I mean it's a double-edged sword. So if you do
yeah.
something wrong, it's easier to stick out.
Right.
But if you do something right, sometimes it's hey, it's a little easier to shine. And I think being a woman in a male-dominated environment, I think we should lean into that. We shouldn't be
Mm,
fearful of that. We should lean into that.
yeah.
Um, we should also see that we are bringing something different to the plate. We bring a different perspective, a different
Mm,
opinion that may not be the majority opinion, and I think that value adds to the community as a whole.
yeah.
It brings about some balance. It brings
Mm,
about a different perspective. It might even bring like a nice dynamic to the entire group.
yeah.
Yeah, so I think
Wow.
that's really kind of appreciating that and leaning into it.
Love it. I love this lean in. This literally this move. I think by just moving towards that um
Yeah.
perceived disadvantage, and this really helps, especially as you highlighted, as women, we bring also unique strength,
Mm-hmm.
the empathy, the communication, and the collaborative approach. And we see so many evidence when company or executive teams bring in women or the women CEO, that brings a very different type of mindset, the way a business approach risks, making decisions. Of course, there are both uh, advantage, disadvantage between men, women, all genders. But I love that we should look at our strengths in this unique
Mm-hmm.
scenario and use it as as our advantage to shine, as you said.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Thank you. And as we talk about this, as now there are so many emerging technologies, AI, and I actually don't know how this connect to the luxury watch field, but I envision perhaps there are a lot of innovation would happen in this wearable device or these components related to the watch industry. And how do you see this technology's development could impact your brand? What do you think that means for your company? Any major change and ideas that you have to embrace this future?
I think the I would say the watch accessory space hasn't really been touched for a long time.
Mm,
Um, whether it's leather straps, rubber straps, fabric straps, I think the space has been quite traditional.
mm,
Um, Many brands that have been in the space in a long time are I would say are kind of like heritage brands, or they've been here for many years. We're one of the I would say like new players to the market. I think that allows us to bring a different a fresher perspective to the watch accessory space. We want to introduce more people to watch straps. We want
mm,
to widen the audience for that. We want people to not just think of it as a replacement, but also a way to express themselves and a way that they can kind of personalize or customize. I think when I think about technology, maybe not so much AI or something so advanced like that, but I think just the concept of innovation or the concept of improvement, I guess. I think those are things that we embrace a lot in our brand. So we not just want to bring products that are already available in the market, but could we do something slightly different, right? Even something as simple as a strap, people might think like, how can you innovate? It's something so simple. I think we have in the past couple of years. We have made changes to the buckles. We have introduced different concepts of a cut-to-size rubber strap, where it fits onto your wrist very, very nicely and seamlessly, and it fits all wrist size, I think we've done little things like that to show people that, hey, you can still innovate in this space and bring something different to the plate. I think in our world today, I wouldn't say just the luxury watch space or the watch accessories world or the e-commerce world. I think just in general, I think for a brand to survive, I think you need to have constant improvement, right? The only constant is change, and we need to have that. Otherwise, at some point, you'll be irrelevant, or people just don't see things are moving so fast. You have to keep up the times. You have to bring value to people. You have to know exactly what is the difference that we are bringing to the plate. So I think that is how I see it kind of impacting the business and impacting people's perceptions. But maybe not so much in just the AI or advanced
definitely.
technology space.
Yes, I love that you touched upon this innovation topic, especially now. I think in the retail field, there are so many innovations, online shoppings, and so on. And you talked about this: keep innovate and make sure that you are leading the trend. So on this one, what do you think is the key in terms of bringing new ideas, innovations to your business, to your brand? How do you do that?
The best way is really to listen and feedback. It's very clear for us. I think we are a direct-to-consumer brand, and that is where our strength is as well. So being able to handle or speak to so many customers every day, I think sometimes people see it over time maybe as a burden because there's so much to handle, right? Every customer is important, and you have to treat them with respect, and that pool only grows as your business grows, and you have to still treat everybody the same with the equal amount of respect, and that takes up time, energy, and effort. But I think that's also where our strength lies, because that's where you get feedback from people. That's where you get criticisms. You get very honest feedback, and that helps you kind of know like where to plan your next move. When is the next step? What is the next product that I should remove, or what are improvements to the current range of products that I have, or even services that I have? What do people like about it? What do people not like about it? I think it's really about listening. Sometimes it's hard to create something or innovate or improve in a vacuum. You really have to kind of listen to everything that goes on around you, especially in the business or e-commerce world. I think customers are really the reason why we are still here today. Everything, all the feedback that they give is actually very valuable. So I would say actually the key is not so much about having the best or most brilliant ideas or having the most brilliant minds, but we need to always stay grounded and being able to, no matter how big the business grows, I think that's where you get the most valuable form of feedback.
Great. Yeah, I hear this and I totally agree with you. I was in product research for a while when I worked for a tech company. So my key responsibility was listen to our customers, collect feedback, and translate that to the tech team. So absolutely agree with you that to understand your customer and your consumer or users need, pinpoint, is absolutely the key to bring the product that delight them. That's really a key. Thank you for sharing. So what I observe from the luxury watch accessory industry, perhaps a majority of the user or consumers are male or men. How do you think of this, and are there new avenues to explore and bring in more women's and everyone basically into this field?
Yeah, I think it's definitely more male heavy. I think for women, there's many other avenues where we're maybe kind of already spending on. So I mean, there's clothing, there's handbags, there's shoes, and sometimes
Cosmetics.
maybe watches. Yeah, sometimes maybe
Yeah.
watches may not be the first thing on our mind. But I do think that world has a lot to offer, and I do want to introduce more women to that space. I think just because of the craft that goes behind the different timepieces and the fact that we can accessorize it to kind of our lifestyles, our outfits,
Yeah.
who we are as a person. I think the watch that we wear, the way we style it, I think it can make a lot of difference. I think it was also with moving times, women are a lot more educated. We have a lot more spending power as well. I think people do recognize it, and women can be part of this community a lot bigger. Yeah, so I do want to, I think it's such a beautiful space, and I feel that more women should be introduced to it, or have the opportunity to, attend more events or get more exposure, whether
Yeah.
they choose to be part of it or not. In the end, I think it's still a personal choice. But I
Yeah.
think just having more opportunities would be great in
Exposure.
general. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely love it. Just personally, I'm interested and curious to know, do you have plan to enter the watch field itself? Perhaps have your own brand of the watch, not only
I
the
think
straps.
at the moment, not really. I think because we see it as a completely different craft. I think watchmaking is so specialized and so important. I don't think anybody can just be a watchmaker.
Yeah.
It takes years of experience, years of
Right.
technique design that goes into it. So for now, I think we're happy to fill the watch strap space because I think that area itself is quite neglected too.
Right.
People don't pay too much attention to introducing more materials, more colors, more styles as well that fits better on everybody's wrist.
Yeah.
No one really gives too much thought to that. And I think for many of the watchmakers out there, I think the focus has always been on the watches. So for us to kind of focus in this accessory space, I think that's our priority at the moment.
Yeah, totally. Makes sense. As you were the owner of Forbes 30 Under 30, how did you feel about it? What do you think of fame as a whole? Like, how does that impact your life?
I was very excited. It felt pretty much like a dream. I think it was something that I always kind of joked about that, hey, maybe,
Yeah.
let's try to get on this list. I don't know how it would feel like. I don't know how difficult it will be. But I never really thought that I'll make it there. So I think when I found myself being part of that group, being part of the list, I think I was very proud. I was very proud to be represented as an entrepreneur on the list. I was
Yeah.
very proud to represent my country, being a female, being in that space, being in the watch industry. I think as a whole, I was just really excited and proud to be there. I
Yeah.
think that the best part was also kind of getting to know the other awardees or the other people who are also on that list, because I think it's a very inspirational bunch of people. And there's a lot to kind of learn from each other. And there's a lot of energy as well,
Yeah.
just from that very young group of people.
Yeah.
I think it could be a little anticlimactic in terms of, like, if you ask about fame or how it feels, I don't feel too much different from it. I pretty much feel like I'm the same person. I don't feel like it has impacted how I function day to day or how people see me. I think it's still pretty much the same, and I think it only adds more credibility to what we're doing in the business as well. So in a way, I haven't really quite felt too much of the media effects from it, I would say.
Yeah.
I think most of it would translate in some way or another to the business, which is great.
Right. Yes, I'm glad you're on the list. That's how I found you as well. And I totally hear you. Yeah, I think definitely
Yeah.
amplified a lot of
Mhm.
topic around you, the business, the industry, the brand, you yourself. And yeah, I am impressed by what you've achieved.
Yeah. I
Congratulations
think
again.
I always appreciated the chance to share a little bit of my story as well.
Uh,
I do want to share that a little bit more sometimes because I feel that being able to go through certain experiences may also help people who were in my shoes earlier or people who might be at crossroads thinking about certain decisions, right? Whether it's business decisions, whether it's family decisions, whether it's about living abroad, living locally. I think at some point in our lives, we do hit some of these crossroads, and sometimes you just want to hear it from someone else,
yeah,
how they've gone through that experience and how they've come out of it. And you may not make the same decision, but being able to hear from someone else does help a little bit.
yeah, definitely. And I absolutely loved our conversation today because not only I understood much better how you transform the passion to a successful business, but also get to know you much deeper and better as a woman, as an entrepreneur,
Mhm.
as a mom, as a partner. I think exactly as you mentioned, oftentimes we just need to hear that we're not alone, or
Mhm.
this is a path that I envision. Perhaps I can do it because someone also has done it, and Pei has been through similar challenges. And this is such a humble moment, but also a touching moment for me and a lot more to realize that we might not have all the answers as we
Mhm.
discussed a lot of things we also still exploring and learning ourselves. But just to know that this is possible, just to know that there is a way to move forward is very inspiring and very encouraging.
Yeah,
So
that's
thank
such
you
a
so
sweet thing
much.
of you to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe the last thing I would like to add on would be that um, I think it's always nice to hear that someone else has done it before. But I think if you
Uh,
find yourself in a position where you're going to make a decision or you're going to do something that you feel like no one else has done before, um, a nice way to think about it could be that if I take that step, maybe it might help someone else who's planning to do it after me.
yeah.
So sometimes that might give you a little push and like, hey, if I do this, I might forge that path for maybe women after me or someone else who is thinking about the same decision but who's afraid to do so.
Yeah. Be the first. Yeah. Be brave to be the first. Thank you. Thank you so much. I don't know if this is the one last insight, but I still love to ask if there is one final insight of wisdom you want our audience to take away from this conversation. What would that be?
I think not to be overwhelmed by our own expectations. So
Uh,
really, I think this has been repeated through our entire conversation, but to take
yeah.
things one step at a time. Um, I always draw it back to the days where I go hiking.
Uh,
I tend to be quite overwhelmed sometimes, or I will
yeah.
see like the path ahead of me or that mountain I need to climb, and I'm like, I don't think I can do it. Like maybe I should turn back now. But then always get a lot of encouragement from my partner, from my friends, and they would say, just one step at a time, and before you know it,
Uh,
you're up there already, or you've already passed that mountain, and you don't even know it. And when you look back, then only when you look back, you'll see how far you've come. So I think it's really about the baby steps and knowing that it will add up to something. So just
yeah.
keep focusing on putting one foot in front of another. And then, yeah, take time to pause as well, look back, appreciate how far you've come, and remember to celebrate that.
Yeah. Absolutely. Love it. I think it's important for us to have a vision, but also it's even more essential to focus the next step in front of us and enjoy the journey along the way. So thank you for this
Thank you
wonderful
so much, Lynn.
insight. Thank you so much, Pei. And where can people connect and learn more about you and also Deluxe?
So you can go to our website, so deluxe.com, delugs.com. We also have We're also present on Instagram, so that's another avenue where you can kind of look for us as well. We're always ready to connect, so follow us, drop us a message, give a shout out, and we're happy to connect over there.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I will leave all those information in the show notes, and I wish you successful business and wonderful 2025 and beyond. And I look forward to connect with you again. Thank you so much, Pei.
Thank you so much, Ling.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for this empowering conversation with Chia Pei Qi. Her story reminds us of the power of pursuing passions, taking bold steps, and creating space for innovation in any industry. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe to The Heritage Show on your favorite podcast platform and leave a comment. Let me know who else you'd like me to invite to the show. Share this episode with someone who needs a little inspiration to follow their dreams or embrace their unique path. Thank you for tuning in, and see you next time.